Detroit Lions edge Matthew Betts, who was signed from the Canadian Football League, who had 18 sacks, one defensive player over there, is with the Detroit Lions, and he is already turning heads. Dan Campbell has given him some praise, and I'm gonna play that clip for you guys, and I'm gonna give my thoughts on what Dan said and really the pathway for Matthew Betts to make the final roster. So let's begin. Let's see what Dan Campbell said about Matthew Betts. Check this out.
Betts, I would tell you there again, we're in pajamas, but there's more versatility to this guy than I think I even realized. There's a couple of things we're doing in coverage with him that wasn't his deal. He just got after the quarterback, period. And we were asking him to do some things kind of at the Sam linebacker position and base to where, yeah, he's a rush, but he's also dropping in coverage. He's matching a little bit. And I tell you what, he's got some pretty good hips for a big man, and he can run, and he's smart. So there's some versatility there. And special teams, yes, sir.
See, what he said at the end there is very key. Special teams, the ability to play special teams. And that is a pathway for guys to make the final roster. And you got to have versatility. And I just want to say this too. Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions, the coaching staff, they always get everything out of a player. And if they can't, then usually it falls on the player. They always have a great plan for all players. Like, if you're good at something, they're going to find out what it is, and you're going to at least get an opportunity to do that and potentially thrive at it. So for Matthew Betts, he is in the greatest situation possible because the Lions are going to find out what his strengths are, what he can and cannot do, and try to utilize him correctly. And I have a bet currently with Booner that he won't make the roster. Booner thinks he can. I think he won't. And by what I mean is the practice squad. I don't know if he'll make the final roster, but I think he'll be on the practice squad. And I'm sure, and I just want to make this very clear, it's not me hating on Matthew Betts as a human being. It's simply looking at the Lions roster, seeing the amount of talent they have, and looking at this defensive line room. And yeah, it's not the greatest in the National Football League, but they have starters. And they also have guys behind those starters that are fringe level starters. There's kind of a group of guys that are kind of in question. The Josh Pascals of the world, even a guy like James Houston, who's going to be playing snaps. You look at John Cominsky, the commish. What can he do? And I think there's just an influx of guys. I mean, even Levi, who I think will be eventually cut, but Mekhi Wingo now added, Broderick Martin at nose tackle. So there's just there's guys that are they're kind of fringe, can play, might not play. And for Matthew Betts, the pathway to being on the final roster is certainly special teams and having versatility, which Dan Campbell clearly thinks he has. But the big thing is it's hard to take anything away when these guys don't have pads on. We're going to find out more about Matthew Betts when training camp begins, and you get to see pads, and you get to see these guys competing, and you really will get to see Matthew Betts, what he can do. Put him with the first team, see if he sinks or swims with pads on. Because as of right now, he's getting all the praise in the world. And I'm happy for him. From a human being perspective, I'm happy for him. For him and his journey from, being in the NFL, for having a cup of coffee essentially in the NFL, going to the CFL and having the numbers he's had. 18 sacks is impressive. I'm not trying to discount that at all. And trust me, if he has anything to give, the Lions certainly need it, because there are question marks with Davenport being able to stay healthy. And James Houston, can he repeat what he did his rookie year? So there is room for anybody to come on this roster and show out and try and be a contributor, because the Lions will welcome him with open arms. But I am curious what he looks like when he goes up against this offensive line and just competes. I'm not saying go out there and dominate this offensive line. That'd be unrealistic. But can he look good? Will he look good when pads get put on? That's probably my biggest question. And I am hopeful, but at the same time, I got a piece of pizza on the line, or at least a whole entire pizza on the line, if he does not with Booner. So we shall see. Whether you hate me for that or not, it's just something I do believe. I think he'll be on the practice squad, and he's somebody that I think you can elevate if there is an injury. But who knows? Maybe he can make the final roster. What's your guys' confidence in Matthew Betts? Because I'm not saying he's not skilled at all. I just have a lot of faith in this Lions roster as a whole, and I don't know if there'll be room for him. But if he could play special teams, There will always be room for him. There will. And I think for a guy like Matthew, who's very open to playing special teams, anything to keep a roster spot, and that's going to be his gateway right there to getting on this roster, is helping out playing that Sam linebacker, yes. Being able to rush the passer, yes. But also playing special teams. But what do you guys think? Will he make the roster? Will he not? I think that's one of the bigger storylines to kind of pay attention to this offseason. It's a great story. It really is. And if he can have success and be the next Cameron Wake, great. Awesome. I mean, I love covering the Lions, so I'm not going to be mad if he does make the roster. I just owe Booner an entire pizza, which that ain't the end of the world. But please, what do you guys think? Matthew Betts, what's his future look like with the Detroit Lions? Will he make the roster? Will he be on the practice squad, or you think he won't be on the roster or practice squad? Comment down below, share your thoughts, and like the video. It helps support the channel and helps put the video out there in the algorithm. Until next time, I'll catch you guys.